For nearly the past year now, I've been working on a project known as the 1001 Animated Films You Should Watch, a project that, by necessity, has had me scouring through all manner of places looking for films, shorts, music videos, TV episodes, and so on, of potential quality and or importance to be given consideration for the list. Because of that, and because the world of animation is more holistic than the plot to a Dirk Gently novel, I've seen certain names crop up enough times that I start to get an understanding of how much they contribute to the medium. With that in mind, I'd like to do a string of videos discussing these animators, directors, or otherwise in whatever manner I feel would make for the most interesting discussion. So on that note, welcome to the Animator Spotlight, and in today's installment, to celebrate his 55th birthday, we'll be discussing the shorts directed by the great Mahiro Maeda. No, not Minoru, Mahiro Maeda. While his name won't be among the first to come to mind when discussing the greats in the medium of anime, Maeda is a man who has had a long and busy career in the industry, dating back to the early 80s. He worked as a key animator for the Daicon 4 opening animation, one of Studio Gainax's earliest productions. He has been involved as a storyboard artist, a character designer, and animator in several popular shows and films. He was one of the founders of the anime studio Gonzo, and directed such beloved series as Blue Submarine No. 6 and Gankutsuou, the Count of Monte Cristo. In fact, his reach and influence even go into the realms of mainstream live-action movies. He provided concept art and character designs that would eventually be used in Mad Max Fury Road, and was responsible for the beautifully horrifying Godzilla design scene in Hideaki Anno's Shin Godzilla. The man's been all over the place, and there's enough work that you could easily make a video about any of the things he's done. But today, I'm only going to cover the few short films he's directed over the years, since that's what particularly interests me. And since I haven't actually watched any of his shows and wanted to get this video out in time, yes, it's lazy, but I wanted something to help me get back into regular video making, so shush! His first short film comes from the Animatrix, an anthology of anime shorts that tie into and expand the universe of the then popular Matrix movies. These shorts were helmed by many acclaimed anime directors, such as Shinichiro Watanabe, Yoshiaki Kawajiri, Koji Morimoto, and Maeda, who directed the two-part segment The Second Renaissance. This film delves deep into the Matrix mythos, showing how the machines became the rulers of the hellish reality in those films, and how said reality turned out that way. Considering its whole premise is to provide a backstory to the universe, The Second Renaissance could have very easily been a deathly dull listing of meaningless events that only satisfy fans who cared about the lore of the series. If you don't believe me, look no further than the also a two-parter origin segment in Halo Legends, which attempts a similar concept and is the most boring thing in anime since AnimeAjay. Thankfully, Maeda manages to avoid this by creating a really compelling, often unsettling film that manages to effectively portray both the sympathetic and horrific sides of humanity and the machines. It's actually quite incredible that in a film full of ludicrously dark happenings, there's a lot done to ensure that everyone involved aren't just cartoonishly evil and unreasonable monsters. We see quite a good deal of people and robots just living their lives, having a good time at the bar, watching the news while on a construction work break, praying before heading out into war. And even during the battle scenes, there's an empathy given towards the suffering of the soldiers being torn apart by the machines. Yes, they did horrible things, but they're still human. That fact is often forgotten in many shows and films in which nameless masses or randos are slaughtered without a second thought. And it's nice that the Second Renaissance remembers this, even though it mainly seems to be for the intent of making the final few minutes quite difficult to sit through. On that note, the use of imagery to truly nail certain points in, like the overconfidence of the generals or the horrific fate that humanity is subjected to, is almost effortless in how effective it is. Seriously, even as someone who hasn't watched The Matrix in over a decade, that this short managed to make me feel something towards that universe again is an achievement worth celebrating. The Animatrix can oftentimes be hit or miss, but The Second Renaissance is definitely among its strongest shorts, to the point where it can be enjoyed entirely on its own merits, without knowledge of the films it's tied to. With great animation and imagery, unsettling ideas brilliantly realized, and a strong, empathetic core, it's an entry in the anthology worth checking out. It must be emphasized going forward that Maeda is quite a versatile director, at least when it comes to his short films. He doesn't just stick to one mood or visual style like most directors quite understandably would. He'll try out an idea for one short and then do something completely different for the next one. I bring this up because his next short film, produced for the 2008 anime anthology Genius Party Beyond, demonstrates that in spades. Gala kicks off the film with the tale of a strange thing that falls from the heavens and how the people in the local area try to deal with it. It's a simple short with very little dialogue and mostly relying on the visuals and music to carry it forward. Thankfully, Gala manages to do a pretty good job at that. What I find quite admirable is how the presentation is used to really hammer home a sense of scale to these events. The storyboards often use distant shots to convey the size of the thing in comparison to everyone else. The character designs are incredibly varied, which gives a sense of the disparate communities living in this world. And then there's the music, which is an orchestral piece composed by the late great Godzilla composer Akira Ifukube from 1961, Ritmika Ostinata for piano and orchestra. Unsurprisingly for someone of Ifukube's reputation, his music gives the short a dramatic weight that would otherwise be lacking. But this does lead to what I feel is the short's greatest letdown. You see, Gala is a short where the characters eventually play music to try and achieve the best possible outcome. But the animation isn't synced up to the music, as it were. For example, a character will be playing a violin melody, but the score doesn't play a melody to reflect this. I say this is a problem with the animation since the short is based on a music piece that had been written over 45 years prior. There could have been the opportunity for the crew to adapt the events that they wanted to achieve to the music more naturally. Although granted, when your short involves a makeshift orchestra full of disparate instruments being formed, I don't really know how you can animate and edit to suit a piece of music that might not feature some of the instruments being used. And maybe they really wanted to use that specific piece. If they tried to come up with something on their own, it might not have suited the situation quite as well. But it's such a shame. Synchronizing music and visuals is one of the most basic tools used in animation, particularly American animation from the late 1920s to the early 60s, and there's a reason why. In the words of animator and director David A. Bossert on a recent article he wrote for Cartoon Research, music is an important part of complementing and highlighting the screen action in any film. Without music, the situations are less impactful and diminish the viewing experience as a whole. And when this film is all about the power of music, that experience is diminished all the more. That's not to say this ruins Gaia. It's an entertaining short full of endearingly silly characters, the presentation has a lot going for it, and there's a strong message about music's ability to uplift and unite people towards a common cause. It's a good way to start the movie, but it's just the missed potential that bothers me personally. If you're able to get around that and enjoy Gala for what it is, then you'll have a good time. For the sake of keeping this video fairly complete, Maeda also directed a short for Annie 15, a series of animated shorts that each last about a minute. If you've heard of this series, it's likely because it featured the last work directed by Satoshi Kon before his death in 2010, Ohio. Maeda's short, simply titled Princess Onmitsu, is about a magical princess and her doll who fight off some dastardly sky pirates. Yeah, there's not really a lot to say. It's just a load of crazy stuff happening on screen, albeit nicely animated with some good storyboarding and expressive characters sprinkled throughout. Give it a look if you have a minute to kill, or if you happen to be watching all of the Annie 15 shorts in general. Our last two shorts take us to late 2014 to early 2015, with the launch of the Japan Animator Expo, a series of shorts produced by Hideaki Anno to give both industry veterans and up-and-coming animators the chance to make their own works. I'll likely do a video on the expo at some point, but it just so happens that Maeda directed two shorts as part of the series. Canon tells the story of a man who destroys the world for being too terrible, but as the only human being left, it'll have to be his job to make the world again, and hopefully improve it. This short is an adaptation of Karel Čapek's play Adam's Storytell, or Adam the Creator, a 7-act black comedy that Maeda manages to squeeze into the span of about 8 minutes. That seems like an insane feat, but there is a way he did it. Putting it on fast forward. Canon moves along at a breakneck pace, where events, characters, and existential crises fly by in mere seconds, to the point where that becomes a big part of the humor, making the characters' plight over the most trivial of things seem that much more petty since the film's not even giving them the dignity of properly hearing them out. Granted, the sheer speed can make this short almost incomprehensible at times, but I feel there's a good deal of work done to help the viewer digest things more quickly. For example, the character designs do a really good job at humorously conveying each of their personalities or what they're meant to be within seconds, like how the cloned humans are featureless blobs that all look the same, or how Adam's pure, supposedly demure wife Lilith looks like a moe girl. The very basic, almost minimalist art style helps to emphasize the important elements, without cluttering the frame with details that would otherwise cause sensory overload when taken alongside everything else. The clear visuals also come back in a big way during the final scenes, where a clever use of overlaid images helps to imply or establish other ideas, but without getting in the way of what's going on. To be fair, though, these only help to mitigate what is going to be a very divisive storytelling technique. There's still a chance that you will end up hating the short the same way I did when I first watched it about a year ago, and that's okay. But I did want to make the argument that Maeda's choice to tell canon this way comes with a good deal of thought put into it. Whether or not that makes the short tolerable, let alone enjoyable, will ultimately be up to you. And to wrap up this video, let's discuss his other Animator Expo short, 20 Minutes Walk from Nishi-Ogikubo Station. This short is a take on the Kafka myth, in which a woman wakes up to find that she's suddenly the size of a bug and tries to make contact with her partner, who sees her as something else altogether. Normally a premise like this is exploited for horror or black comedy, but 20 Minutes instead goes for a chase-filled comedy romp, and what I personally consider to be the best of Maeda's shorts. Much like Gala, 20 Minutes is a very simple story that is made great by its use of the presentation, particularly the visuals. The sketchy, washed-out look helps to convey the feeling that you're watching a children's picture book. And yeah, even though the main character is naked, there's such a sexlessness to her portrayal that her nudity is more incidental and not really something to be lusted over. As such, the short has an innocent, playful atmosphere that makes it quite endearing. This feeling is accentuated by the music, which is made up of a variety of tunes that perfectly suit the different situations in such an over-the-top way that it's adorable. Little details like a phone's ringtone becoming a part of that particular music cue help to punctuate events and give them an energy that would otherwise not be there. But what really makes this short so great is how impressive the animation is. The character animation itself carries a sense of weight typical in the animation of the short's planner, Takeshi Honda, and it really gives these characters a life and humor that makes the physical comedy work like a charm. But even more than that is the background animation. There are a few sequences where the camera moves with the character, and so those backgrounds have to be animated as well. It's a very difficult process because of how easy it is to screw up, but when it goes right, it works like a charm, and that's definitely the case here. In addition, the simplicity of the character designs gives the animators the freedom to do what they do best without worrying about sticking to the model sheet. With greats like Honda, Toshiyuki Inouye, and even Shinya Ohira of all people, providing cuts that are brimming with the kind of talent that have allowed them to become so beloved. For the animation alone, 20 Minutes is a gem, and a highlight of the Animator Expo series that I absolutely recommend. And with that, we finish today's short film retrospective on Mahiro Maeda. While I'm not the biggest fan of all his work, he is an interesting director who's always striving to do something different with each new short. Hopefully any of these will have grabbed your attention enough to check them out, and maybe the series and films they're from, where you might find even more things that you'll end up enjoying. The world of animation is wide and wonderful, folks. It's prime for exploring. Have a great day! Thank you very much for watching. I would like to give special thanks to AnimeGolem, AnimeAjay, YTWes, Josh Dunham, and ibcf, I'm sorry I don't know how to pronounce your name there, for helping me figure out what to do with this video.